Every studio is an artist's sanctuary. I think that's a perfect word for it, by the way. The environment that you're in, I think, has a lot to do with what you paint, and how you think. I spend 2.5 months every summer on an island, literally on an island, without electric, without running water, and over the years, that becomes my studio. So many of my political paintings are created on the island. You know, I could be painting a landscape and at the same time painting the landscape, actually thinking about George Bush, of all things. So, you know, all these things are interconnected in a funny way. These drawings go back to the 60s. I did these drawings shortly after studying with Gross at the Art Students League. These are completely different in the sense that they're brush and ink, number one. I don't know whether anyone has done drawings like this before with the brush, and they're very personal in a strange way. And I never tried to sell them in all these years because, number one, I didn't want to let them go. And I've sold almost every one of them. But seeing them 30 years after I did them, they hold up. And it's interesting for me to see them displayed this way. The shape of these paintings were dictated really by painting on an island. I call them the slices of Maine. A lot of these paintings are actually on wood. They're not on canvas. This is my easel. In many cases were trees. After painting a short time outdoors, this shape began to become, in the woods you're looking at 80-foot trees. Everything is this way, right? And then I was thinking, you know, so you can be on an island, and then in the end you've translated something that you found interesting there to just the opposite environment in the city, and so I think it keeps you on your toes by changing environments. I painted maybe 30 or 40 different easels, but on each easel was a painting really within a painting. Nonetheless, I think that in history they're going to say, gee, maybe this is a new form of trompe-l'oeil, because instead of just using paint, I use the same materials that other artists have come to use, and I put them together. I won't be around in 100 years maybe, but I have a feeling these will be around in 100 years. Her work also developed, you know, this is a piece of wood, bark of a tree, and this is literally branches from various evergreens, and this is you know, so all these materials came from the island, and so, or you have to do things by hand. So a lot of the fiber pieces even were kind of unusual to me, just because I can't imagine the technical thing of doing a landscape, and you know, without any guide. It's just her mobiles. Now all of this, these are all things that were found in the soil, you know, rusted, you know, who knows from when, but some of the things you can figure out what they are: a pitchfork, a clamming fork, and that all of a sudden becomes part of the art. So again, it underscores this whole idea as island, as studio. So it worked for both of us.
The island, which is the right. Real world,
yeah,
comes in collision with what you bring from the city. And it's all of this stuff, the constraints, the chains, the handles, the screws, And that's a great philosophical statement.
No, I think that's exactly the.
It's two forces.
Yeah.
It's two forces fighting each other.
Yeah.
One very much the natural, real world, and the other the constructed, brutal world.
Yeah. Well, and
this.
the I don't know. You have to look, but even this is like a veneer. A different kind of. I saw it as a kind of humorous, and yet something almost sad.
Oh, it is. Absolutely.
And, I guess I can't get away from.
You've imprisoned nature and put metal bands around it and locked it up. Come on.
It's, I guess I can't keep from.
I think it's great.
I probably wouldn't have done this if I hadn't done the sculpture, my first sculpture on the island, right? But this in itself, it was a sculpture, the easel without anything on it. It was sort of because of the age, the fact that it comes right out of my studio at the Art Students League. And I added, there were names on here of certain artists that taught there. And, Rockwell Kent, William Merritt Chase, John Koch, Steinberg, it goes on and on, George Gross. I added some of these, but some were there. And this is the door, when they were renovating the League a few years ago, I found this out in the trash. And and it was covered with, grime and paint. This didn't look like it was anything, but it was gray paint, maybe 20 layers of paint and so on. And then it just became a kind of a nice metaphor for what the League, the history of the League. And I just thought this was a kind of a nice tribute to the League, but then, it's a nice thing to look at, How could you do a painting of 9/11 or the Twin Towers without, for me, I had to show them. As I thought about it, the real chaos, the fire, the destruction wasn't really the towers themselves. It was what our society, why it happened. There's something in our society that they're just symbols of this. They're just buildings. But the real meaning of 9/11 is not that two fairly ugly structures were taken down, but it was what led to it. And remember the outpouring of sympathy and good feeling for America when this happened, and then was totally squandered. And this is why it was squandered, because this has everything to do with why they were taken down. I feel every artist should be painting or creating for himself, not for the marketplace. It's not just to have a show anymore, you have to have a concept. And I thought this would be an interesting break from political work, totally political work, or totally, and it has, I think, been a lot of interest to everyone who's seen it, because, your environment does have a or I think it should have something to do with what you produce. I do.